Welcome to another exciting edition of This Ain't No Game. I'm your host, Ryan Davis, and this week we make our shambling return to Raccoon City with Resident Evil Apocalypse, the second in the Resident Evil film trilogy of shame. Now, if you don't remember much about the first Resident Evil movie, or you missed it entirely, Resident Evil Apocalypse assumes as much, opening with a flashbacky voiceover by Milla Jovovich's Alice character, glossing over all of the nonsense that went down with the T-virus and the hive and all that junk. Hive. All you really need to know is zombies exist. From there, the movie picks up basically right where the last one left off, with the zombifying T-virus ravaging the Raccoon City while Milla Jovovich wanders around in her hospital gown. Like the first movie, Apocalypse uses the rough plot outline of the games, but then uses that as kind of like the framework for its own original awful story threads. The whole escape from zombie-filled Raccoon City conceit is straight out of Resident Evil 3, and Apocalypse goes so far as to introduce a bunch of characters from that game.
I'm leaving town. I suggest you do the same.
You get a blue-shirted Jill Valentine, played with an unparalleled stiffness by Sienna Guillory. Her straight-from-the-video game costume makes her the most recognizable character, but Resident Evil fans may recognize characters like the Umbrella Commandos Carlos Oliveira and Nikolai Genevev.
Sergeant Nikolai Genevev, at your service.
The biggest bit of fan service, though, comes in the form of an exceptionally rubbery-looking nemesis, who's basically like the king of the zombies, and he's sent in by Umbrella to murder everyone that the teeming army of bloodthirsty zombies don't take care of. In the game, the nemesis is one of the most terrifying and life-threatening presences you've ever seen in Resident Evil. But here, he just looks like a bad Halloween costume. The kind that, makes you have to stand in the corner at the party, and it makes it really hard to, drink your drink. All of the nods to Resident Evil 3, though, end up feeling kind of ancillary to the real story in Apocalypse, which revolves around the survivors racing to find the daughter of an Umbrella scientist who promises to help get them out of the freshly quarantined Raccoon City. Among the survivors is Mike Epps, who you might recognize from the bad Friday sequels, and who provides some pretty cringe-worthy comic relief.
I see you, mother.
Though I will admit that this referential little moment almost redeemed his otherwise lazy ghetto caricature for me.
GTA, motherfucker! Oh, yeah! 10 points!
More than any plot points or character development, though, the movie's number one concern is making Milla Jovovich's character look like a supernatural badass. Though the movie seems to have the same idea of what badass means as a 13-year-old kid who just saw The Matrix. Apparently Umbrella performed a bunch of freak experiments on her that gave her crazy powers, which means you get to see her drive a motorcycle through a church's stained glass window and then murder a bunch of lickers. Later on, she nonchalantly flicks a lit cigarette to blow up a pack of zombie dogs. Nearing the film's climactic finale, she runs straight down the side of a big-ass office building. I'm not going to sit here and try and act like the first Resident Evil movie was a good movie, even by the fairly forgiving standards of zombie movies. But it had an efficiency to the way it moved that I really appreciated. And Resident Evil Apocalypse, on the other hand, seems to have a limitless amount of time for inexplicably pointless shots and sequences. Why is this firefight happening? Where are those characters going? Why are there topless zombie hookers? Why do you need this lingering shot of a worm-infested skull sitting in front of a tombstone that says "Rest in Peace"? It seems like someone realized halfway through the editing process that there wasn't anywhere near 90 minutes worth of plot, and they needed more padding.
What's the rush?
Resident Evil Apocalypse also manages to fall victim to a number of really obvious zombie movie cliches, including the nervous, freaked-out survivor who runs off and gets eaten by zombies.
Get back here!
The survivor that gets bit and turns on the group at an inopportune time. And this, the coup de grace of zombie movie mistakes, approaching an unknown character from behind and assuming that they're not a zombie. I wonder how this will pan out.
We're gonna take you home.
The movie eventually ends in a confrontation with Nemesis and this evil, vaguely European Umbrella guy. And then it does that thing where it ends again, though neither ending provides a particularly satisfying finish to the story. To its credit, though, it did leave me baffled enough that I'm curious to see whether Resident Evil Extinction, the third movie, addresses any of this.
Bullshit! No fucking way would they get away with that!
Resident Evil Apocalypse goes to some lengths to throw in stuff that would, at least in theory, please fans, but it plays fast and loose enough with the Resident Evil fiction in general that it cross-cancels out any of that potential goodwill. It's a pretty miserable failure as a zombie movie, and its attempts at tough, in-your-face action movie swagger are just laughable. And that's going to do it for this week's edition of This Ain't No Game. I'm Ryan Davis, reminding you to never go for a casual walk through a cemetery during a zombie outbreak.
We need to find somewhere to stop for a moment.
I don't think that's a good idea.